everyone. This is Deepak Chopra from the channel Dot Connected. And as you all are aware, this channel is about to make a difference and share valuable information in the areas of life which are important to you. Today, I'm very happy and excited to bring three amazing youngsters who are our guest speakers tonight in this session. They will be sharing very much valuable information for high school kids, what they need to do in high school years so that they can qualify for good universities and also they can qualify for scholarships. All three of these young individuals have done tremendously well in their high school years, and they have done exceptionally well in university degrees also. They got scholarship also, and now enjoying such a rewarding profession after completing their college. So just to get started, I would like to start by inviting one of our guest speaker today, Rahul Singla. Welcome to the show, Rahul.
Thank you so much.
Everyone out there, Rahul is such an amazing human being. I know him from last 7, 8 years. I have seen him growing through high school years, through college years, and now enjoying such a great profession in CIBC as commercial banker. And he has done his degree from University of Alberta in financing sector, and he is also running his family company, which is into home construction called Topaz Signature Homes, and Rahul is a project manager there. So Rahul, before you introduce yourself, let me bring on to the two other speakers also. So our next speaker is Dennis Richard. He is also a university graduate. He did his degree from University of Alberta and working now in IMCO investment company. And this company manages government funds and pension plans. And Dennis, something is amazing. You are a born student, right? You are also doing now 2 degrees. You're also working towards your computer science dual degree. And you also have aspiration to become a CFA.
Yes, that's correct. Yes,
awesome.
Thank you.
Good for you, Dennis. Now let me bring our last but not the least, the final guest speaker, Tanvir Olak. So Tanvir Olak, welcome to the show. Guys, a little bit about Tanvir. He is working right now as real estate agent in our company CMX Edge. And also he has done a couple of years of medical science degree in University of Alberta. And now he's going to start his medicine and surgery degree in UK in 2023. So Tanvir, Rahul, and Dennis, welcome to this show and welcome to tonight's episode. And I really want to acknowledge all three of you by giving your valuable time just to share that important information which is helping all those kids out there and their parents out there who are right now in high school years. And the reason I am doing this session with you is because my own son is in grade 11 right now. And I have experienced over the years when he was starting elementary school, I was having a lot of questions. And similarly, many of my other friends, they were also having the similar questions. But we didn't know the right resources to reach out. Sometimes you need, in detail information to make any kind of decision. Similarly, we have, did these kind of research in his junior high school year or high school selection. Now, which is the biggest and important part is his university, right? So I was in the process to find out all the information. If he needs to choose a good school and if he needs to qualify for scholarship programs, what are the action he needs to take in these 3 years, grade 10, 11, and 12? And similarly, many parents out there whose kids are in high school years right now, they also have the same questions. So this is the intention and agenda of this session. I got some questions from a couple of parents. I shared this session information on our Facebook channel, and I requested them to send me their question. What are the most burning questions they have, and where they need information. So we shortlisted 9 questions, which I'm gonna share with you one by one and go from there. So before we start that, I would like to give you the opportunity to just introduce about yourself a little bit. So Rahul, why don't you go first?
Sure. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for having me. It's I'm very excited to have a chat with you and share some of my experiences with the community. So yeah, like you said, I think I really do jive with you in that sense where you said that, you had a lot of questions with your son. I remember not too long ago, Dad and I had the same questions when I was trying to figure out where my life was headed when I was 14, 15 years old. So yeah, I had to reach out to a lot of contacts at that time. I had to do a lot of research myself. So this is a great opportunity for me to just kind of pay that forward that everyone was able to give me the help quite a few years ago. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rahul. Dennis, please go next.
Yes. Thanks for having me on the call. This is great. I know Rahul's done one of these before. I haven't, but yeah, this should be a lot of fun. I think you've kind of said it all. I've graduated from U of A. I've got a finance degree. I'm back to school. Seems like I cannot get over school now. Back to school for computer science. So yeah, hopefully I can bring some value and share some thoughts as a graduate and as a current student.
Awesome. Thank you, Dennis. All right, Tanvir.
Yeah, so thank you, first of all, for having me here. I, like Rahul said, a couple years ago, I found myself struggling with a lot of the same questions that I'm sure students have out there today as well. And I think sometimes you have to go through a process of trial and error. So I had to go through that, and it would be nice if someone else didn't have to, if we could answer some of their questions. So yeah, thank you for that.
Awesome. All right, gentlemen, let's get started. So what I'm going to do, I will, read the questions, and I will request one of you to answer those questions. And once you're done with your answers, if any other speaker has anything else to input which can bring more value, please feel free to jump into the conversation and we can go from there. All right. Awesome. So the first question I have for Rahul. So Rahul, do they need to start the process in grade 11 or 12? I have heard many people are doing early, registration into universities. So how does the system work? People start from grade 11, or they can wait till grade 12 also, or they have to decide something from the very beginning, which is grade 10.
Yeah, so this is a great question, a question that a lot of people have. So I would say, in my opinion, the best time to start thinking about university, if you haven't previously, is grade 10. Grade 10 is a great time because, as you mentioned, there is pre-admission. Pre-admission is something that we can discuss in a little bit more detail, but that starts happening in grade 11, and it's going to take your grade 11 marks. So, in grade 10, if you have an idea of these are the universities I want to apply to, these are the programs I might want to apply to, you can definitely start doing a lot more prep work and kind of anticipating your movements for the future. Going into grade 11 is definitely, you still have time. You've got 1-2 years. So if grade 10's passed, don't worry, it's not the end of the world. You have up until even grade 12. Just the more time you have, obviously, the better you are. Grade 12, one of the big sort of fear factors about leaving it until grade 12 is that at this point you're kind of getting to the tail end of applications, as well as your marks can be a little bit more variable too. As I'm sure many of our Alberta students know, we've got diplomas in grade 12, and diplomas count for 20% of your grade at the time of this recording for the 2022-2023 school year. So 20%, especially a test that hasn't been written directly by your teacher, of course, there's a little bit of variability that could come in there. So always a good idea to try to avoid that if possible. But yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with Rahul. I mean, it's I know it seems early to start thinking grade 10, like, oh shoot, it's 2-3 years away to start thinking about university. But it's grade 11. You can submit some applications, you get used to the process, take some stress off. And, if you don't get accepted for whatever reason it might be, you still have grade 12 as opposed to leaving it until your last year. Then, it's a lot more stress. Diplomas could be a variety of things that are a little bit more intense to leave it in the last year.
That's perfect. What I'm getting out of it is earlier the better. So if you plan in grade 10 what university you need to go, and do a little bit of research about that, what programs they entertain, what special curriculum they entertain, and start your high school selection from that even also, and take your programs accordingly. And grade 11 is the ideal time because you still have at least 1 year to deal with the last minute process kind of thing. So no, that's great. Thank you so much for answering that. All right, so Dennis, my next question is for you. how can students increase their application average?
Yes, another very good question. Yeah, I think maybe an important note for this is application average versus overall average. So yeah, obviously throughout high school, you may take a lot of courses, could be 10, 11, 12, however many it is. Again, depending on the program, obviously look at the program requirements that you're applying into. A lot of programs, the vast majority at U of A, at least, they might only look at 6 or 7 of your best. So, yeah, that's an important distinction to make, that, you don't need to be extremely good at everything. Maybe there's only 6 or 7 courses. Again, it's not a suggestion to, not do well in something, but, if it comes down to it, maybe you need to focus on a few. So yeah, that's application average versus, overall average. And then I guess generally speaking, and maybe we can have a entire call on this, is increase your marks somehow, like do the habits that are or get used to the habits that are going to create those marks. That could be do your homework, study for stuff early, take the full time on tests to do the exam. And I know maybe it sounds like no brainers for me to say this on this call, but take all your assignments very seriously. Like every percent matters, especially when you get over that 85, 90% mark. Every little mark matters towards your application average.
You add on to this?
One thing is like Dennis said already, that they always don't look at all of the courses, and sometimes you'd be surprised at which courses you can use to get into certain programs. Like, for example, I know at Mount Royal University in Calgary, you only need 2 courses for the average. The average is very high. It's almost like 96, 97%. But you would think that for nursing, those courses would have to be like biology or chemistry, but you can literally use like Spanish and French to get in. So sometimes it's much easier to get high grades in those courses as opposed to, core courses like sciences or in a math. So make sure you look into that's like Rahul said, the earlier you start, the better. And if you know which courses you need to get into a program, you can focus more on those, just like Dennis was saying earlier. Like, not to say that you should do bad in other courses, but yeah.
So what I'm hearing, gentlemen, I would also listen all those conversations from a parent perspective also, because practically and technically, I'm also dealing with the same situation. So what I'm hearing is from university's website or by approaching to them, somebody will figure out what are the 6 or 7 courses that particular university need good grade in, correct? Okay, does not matter if they want to go to the medical stream or engineering field or financing field. So every university have that already mentioned in their prospect or in their website. Okay, if you are choosing this stream, you need to have your 85 or 90 plus into these 6 or 7 programs. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's always a good idea to, whichever university you're interested in, just type a quick, let's say, University of Alberta admission requirements, Faculty of Science, right? Something like that will throw up exactly what they're looking for. Universities do a great job of being very transparent with their with their requirements and what they're expecting from you. So definitely, use the university's website to your benefit for sure.
Awesome. Wonderful. Okay. So Tanveer, my next question is for you, which came from a parent. What is pre-admission and how can you retain pre-admission status?
So pre-admission, like Rahul and Dennis already mentioned, is when you use your grade 11 grades to obtain admission. And like Rahul said, it's better to do pre-admission because, in grade 12, you have diplomas. Your grade 11 grades don't have a portion for the diploma. It's just your course grade and whatever final exam you wrote in the school. So you can use those grades and you submit those grades to the university and you'll obtain what is generally a conditional acceptance letter. So for the U of A, for example, if you can obtain admission based on your grade 11 grades, like pre-admission, you only have to maintain like the minimum standard for grade 12, which could be, it's variable every year. Some universities do still require for you to maintain the average which you presented in grade 11 like throughout grade 12 as well to, have that conditional acceptance become an unconditional acceptance. But then again, that depends on which university you apply to. But I would definitely say that, yeah, that's it, that pre-admission is the best way to go because the earlier you apply, like we already discussed, the better. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Anything, Rahul or Dennis, you want to add into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tanvir did a great job explaining it all. Pre-admission is a really awesome tool that the universities, provide for students because, like we've mentioned, it gets stressful when you're in grade 12 and you don't know if you're going to get into a university or what. So at least if you've got a pre-acceptance into maybe one university or two universities, even if they might not be your first choice, at least you're confident enough to know that you've got somewhere to go. So definitely look into the pre-admission requirements and everything for your university of choice, because it's a really, really awesome sort of safety net to have.
Share a practical scenario here. For example, if somebody is in grade 11 and they have 85, 90 as Dennis mentioned, and they want to go for pre-admission, and let's say they chose University of British Columbia, and they got the pre-admission there, and they don't have any requirement to have the similar grade into grade 12 also, but after grade 12 they again are into 85 or 90% range, and now they want to go to University of Toronto. So after grade 12, can they apply for University of Toronto also once they already have the acceptance letters from UBC in their hands?
Yeah, so I can take this one. So by the timelines, you wouldn't necessarily be waiting until after grade 12 to apply. Even if you're going into the regular application stream, it usually happens, I think, about mid of grade 12. So maybe February, March, somewhere around there. But yes, there's nothing stopping you from applying into other schools, right? Even if you have a conditional acceptance or even a non-conditional acceptance, the only thing that might stop you is timelines as to when you can accept the offer or not. Because if you pass that timeline, they might revoke that. But yeah, 100% if you want to apply into different universities, that's totally fine.
So it means they can still hold the position in one universities, and during the grade 12, in the middle of grade 12, as you mentioned, they can apply for another school. Then they can give up whatever seat they want to give up and choose the final one.
Yeah, totally. It's obviously a little bit frowned upon if you accept one university's offer and then months later you're going to another university. It might be a little bit frowned upon. But at the end of the day, the really only thing that you're letting go of is maybe a deposit, which I don't think is usually too high. Maybe about $1,000 or less. So yeah, it's definitely doable if this happens to be your dream school that kind of just gave you a late acceptance, then totally.
Got it. Perfect. All right. Okay. So my next question is for Rahul. Can one apply to 3 or 4 different universities in Canada? Or sometime, a couple of parents also ask me their kids are interested into, some universities in states like, MIT, Stanford, or Harvard. So how they can make that sort of balance? Like, they are interested in, first of all, US universities. So they might be start preparing for those. But just to be safe side, just in case they don't get anything in US, at least some good Canadian universities they want to keep in their back pocket. So how you deal with this situation and what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, totally. This is a great segue to what we were just talking about, actually. So 100%, there's no limit to how many schools you can apply for other than maybe what your pocket might allow, because every school you apply to, there's usually an application fee as well. So keeping that in mind, you can apply to as many universities as you like. Whenever I've chatted with young students, I usually recommend that they apply to a few schools that they are really ambitious about going to, as well as maybe one or two sort of safe schools, right? Something that they feel they have a very high chance of getting into, just as a safety net, right? Sometimes, university averages are starting to creep up a little bit higher year over year. So sometimes you don't quite make the cut. So it's always nice to just have a safety option, and then you can always transfer over to the school that you'd prefer to maybe next year. So that's about applying to multiple universities. Now, as far as US universities go, that's totally fine too. The only thing that really you would have to keep in mind with US universities is they have what's called the SATs. Those are exams that are written by high school students, usually grade 11, grade 12. So kind of keeping in mind that you would have to study for a separate exam and pay the fees as well and write the exam. So that's kind of the main factor that would differentiate Canadian universities with US universities.
Okay, so SAT is the prerequisite to get admission in any US university.
Yeah, exactly.
And they can start preparing for SAT in their grade 11, you said, right?
Yeah, 100%. So it's, usually the SATs cover pretty much everything that you learn in high school. So as long as, even during grade 10, grade 11, you are sort of preparing for the SATs just by doing your regular course load. Now, the US exam, since it is US, it might cover a few different topics. So it's always good to grab an SAT book and, maybe start reading it a little bit ahead of time in grade 11. They also do have practice SATs. I believe they're called the PSATs. So those are also a great way. They're run by the same company. So it's a great way to kind of take the exam about a year early and just see kind of where you're sitting, so that accordingly you can make any changes that you might need to in your preparation.
And how many attempts one can try for SAT scores?
So that's a great question. I believe it's only one. But we can definitely look into that and confirm it for you.
Yeah, definitely. Anything which we got from all those parents, if any information we need to dig deep more, we can certainly find out that information and can post that into the bio or link of this video once we're gonna post, and we can add in there. So yeah, thank you very much, Rahul, for that. All right, my next question is for Dennis. What is the qualifying criteria for admission other than educational grade? What percentage is workable?
Yeah, great question. So, I think this really does depend where you're applying. A lot of these maybe higher profile schools like the Stanfords, the MITs, the Harvards, these schools will look at your application, perhaps outside of like just your raw grades. The vast, I don't want to group anyone, but the vast majority of students who apply U of A, U of C, UBC. Actually, maybe Rahul was applying to UBC and they were looking at some extracurriculars. But yeah, it depends where you're applying, whether or not they're going to look at this. But yeah, I think the big ones are typically that they're looking for a well-rounded student. And I know this is a very, it's a very interesting term. They say, well, what is well-rounded? What does it mean to be well-rounded? I think it's a variety of things. They're maybe not looking for someone who is only good at school and only has good grades. They're looking for people who've perhaps volunteered. Maybe there's some work experience there that displays a certain interest in your field, extracurriculars, leadership, community involvement. So all these things, you don't have to do all of them. Of course, there's not enough time to do all of these things, but you do a few of them, volunteer in something that interests you, and this contributes to making you a well-rounded student. And yeah, if you are applying somewhere, and you're applying to med school, I'm sure these are very much things that are that are being considered. But yeah, depends on your application and what your goal is.
Dennis or Rahul or Tanvir, any one of you, can you please share in details maybe top 5 or 7 extra activities which the kids and their parents can plan ahead of time, and they can start putting their kids into those kind of programs which can build their resume.
I can kick this off here. I was in debate back in high school. Stuff like this. You learn some speaking skills, maybe some how to build arguments, writing skills. So and maybe there's a chance to compete. And if you've done really well in debate, it's something that's worthy of going on your resume. This is a good extracurricular that doesn't show in your grades.
I heard from other parents also, all those kids who are even having 90% grader or 95% graders, if they don't have any volunteer experience, sometimes their application is not getting accepted. So Tanvir, maybe I can request you, because I have seen you doing volunteer in many places, and I'm sure Rahul and Dennis must have done that too. So Tanvir, can you please share us where one can find out volunteer opportunities? And if somebody has not started that, even if they're in grade 10, 11, or maybe in grade 12, if they can start something now, is there any possibility that can be considered in their resume?
So in terms of starting, I think you can start whenever, because you don't have to be volunteering at a place for, a very long time in order to get the experience necessary. I would say the first place to start looking is your school. So like Dennis said, he did debate, right? I never did debate or anything like that in high school because I was like, oh, look, I want to be a doctor, right? It doesn't matter. But sometimes when you apply to medical school or dental school, you have to do interviews and your speaking skills do matter. So I would say that look and explore in like all of the options that your school has to offer. Most schools in Alberta have a lot of clubs that will, segue into other volunteer opportunities, and they open up a lot of doors. So it's good to explore everything and don't kind of, close yourself off and be like, oh, I don't need this because it has nothing to do with what I want to do in life. Because I think a lot of these things are interconnected at some level. The second place that I would look for volunteer opportunities is if you're participating in any extracurriculars like sports or some sort of, music, anything like that. Those are great places to look. Sometimes you can, volunteer through whichever place you're participating in the sport or whatever you do. So those organizations always have some sort of volunteer opportunities. And since you are already attending there or a member of that community, it'll be easier for you to, get a position. And then cultural religious groups are always like, if you're religious or if you're involved in anything of that sort, those are also good places to look for volunteer opportunities, which are, kind of a different sort of experience. They may not be, very mainstream extracurricular related, or they're not related like, to academics in a sense. But like Dennis said, universities do look for a well-rounded person. What the definition of well-rounded is, well, that depends on what you want to do and, who you are. So you can explore that as well. And lastly, I would say, like, I think this is one of the most important. If you already know what you want to pursue after high school, I would say to try and volunteer in that sector, whether that be, law, or if it's like medicine or dentistry, whatever you want to do. And if you don't know what you want to do, volunteering is one of the best ways to find out what type of career may suit you. So for me, in grade 9 or 10 or even 11, sometimes I would question whether I was heading in the right direction. But volunteering really made me realize what I was more interested in, because sometimes, things can get a little cloudy. You think there's not too many differences between being a doctor or a dentist. And then you spend a week, like I spent a week volunteering at a dentist clinic, and I realized that I could never be a dentist because it's just not my thing. But the time that I spent volunteering at the hospital was great for me. So I definitely think that volunteering is like a great way to experience things firsthand and actually understand what it takes to be a certain type of professional. Because sometimes, students have a more glorified idea of what it is to be a lawyer or a doctor from watching, TV or seeing, their friends' parents or their own parents. So I think that's one thing. Like the most important type of volunteering is actually there, in a career field that you want to pursue, or in other fields that if you're not too sure, you can look into different ones and maybe find what's out there for you.
Got it. Yeah. So Tanvir, you absolutely said so well. Like, job shadow is one of the best thing where you can learn about yourself if you are fit for this career or profession or not. And that can only happen through, doing some sort of volunteer jobs. And Tanvir, also advise if somebody have a family business, any kids have their parents business, and if they help in the business and do some sort of activities, maybe customer service activities or some sort of other activities, and that experience also count as a well-rounded student.
100%, I would say it would. And I mean, Rahul, for example, he's doing so much, project manager work or stuff like that within his parents' company. And definitely that does, add so much value and experience to what it takes to be a well-rounded student. And even if your family doesn't have a family business, like Dennis mentioned earlier, work experience sometimes is a very important part of university applications. Especially for me, when I applied to the UK, there is a whole section of the application dedicated to places where you have worked. And in my experience for all the medical school interviews that I've done as well, work experience did come up. I would say 9 out of 10 times I did end up mentioning something about places that I've worked and what I've learned from there. So yeah, those definitely do count for experience. And it is, well, it's good to help your parents out. So do that. And if you don't, if your family doesn't have a business, maybe go out and get a job. That might be nice as well. It does reflect nicely on who you are as a person.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for sharing that, Tanvir. Rahul and Dennis, do you have anything to add on to this?
Yeah, I could. I mean, Tanvir covered it so awesome. But I think the key behind all of this is, at the end of the day, universities, scholarships, anyone, they just want to see that you're not just sitting in your room reading books or studying all day. You know, it's awesome if you are. You know, that means you're obviously very academically inclined. But more and more people are starting to realize that the best sort of contributors to society are sort of well-rounded, educated, of course, but also, you know, street smart, or maybe people who have different hobbies and other abilities outside of studying. So, you know, as a young student, I remember being 13, 14 years old. I knew nothing about myself, right? Who I am, what I like to do. All I knew was, you know, there's a couple video games I like to play. There's a couple sports I like to play. And other than school, that was about it. So as Dennis mentioned, you know, joining a few clubs in school and getting some work experience, some volunteer experience, those really opened my eyes as well as to who I am as a person, and all the things that I do enjoy as well. And that obviously, just one thing after another, led me to where I am today, right? As in choosing the right profession, making sure that I chose the right things in university. And there's always, you know, there's always jumping around, bouncing around. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm very happy with where I ended up. So, and that's all because of kind of where I came from. Yeah.
That's amazing, Rahul. Definitely. I have also seen and witnessed your journey from a teenager to such a successful young man. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that information. I have a couple more questions, gentlemen. Before I go to the scholarship question, which might gonna take a little bit more time, so I have second last question for Dennis: how to build a resume and what needs to be covered in it? And Dennis, one parent called me and they asked, like, what is this essay thingy which you need to submit to the universities? So I believe all students need to build their resume, or maybe kind of write an essay about themselves, who they are, what they have accomplished. Is that something called essay or resume given to universities?
Yeah. This is actually a really big question. I mean, you know, like what is resume building, and um, you know, I think at least in my experience, you know, applying for jobs, and I don't have the same experience, you know, applying to med school as, you know, Rahul and Tan for Nicole, but you know, it's very similar process where, you know, whatever institution you're looking to apply to, you know, they're trying to vet the applicant, and they're all you know, trying. I don't know exactly how to word this. Um, you, I guess, for example, you could have two of the exact same. Say it's the two exact same people, and you know, one person who's, you know, written an essay well versus the other one who has not. You know, one will get the job and the other won't. So sometimes it doesn't come down to you know, your actual qualification, but you know, rather you know, how have you um, displayed yourself through your resume, through your essays and whatnot. So I think that's maybe kind of where this question is going. To start with resume building, I guess it starts from the beginning, like kind of everything we've talked about on this call. You know, is doing activities throughout high school, or you know, kind of wherever you are. You can start in junior high, with volunteering and whatnot. Is, you know, doing things that align with where you want to go in the future is what resume building is really about. And I mean, if you look at any standard resume, there's probably a few things that go on there. Skills is a big one. Maybe that's the first thing that goes on your resume. Work experience will also go on your resume. Your educational qualification will show up. Obviously, these are very big topics. And typically, maybe last, you can say, awards or achievements, and also references. So there's a lot of components to a resume, and there's different ways you can build each of them, and they kind of all tie together. Taking courses. Of course, you're in university or you're in high school. You're going to be taking certain courses, but maybe doing something outside of high school that it makes sense. Some sort of other educational qualification, whatever that might be. Work experience, volunteering experience. These all tie in with your skills. So what you learn and the skills that you develop through work or through volunteering, also you can put on a resume to build your resume. You can put something on there that maybe you don't really know, but it's not recommended in case someone checks, right? And of course, references, like I'm sure with Tanvir, Rahul, applying to med school, like you need some references. You need, or even throughout high school, like I guess depending where you're applying, maybe they're going to call your references. So getting to know teachers can be very, very important. Especially, I know we're going to talk about scholarships right away. Someone might call your teacher to see if you're qualified for a scholarship, or maybe you need a teacher to to write a letter for you for a scholarship. So all these things go into resume building. It's you can pick away at it bit by bit. Maybe the important thing, and we're tying this whole call together. Starting early, like you can't build a resume in a year. It's not possible, right? You have to start early. You start grade 9, you start grade 10, slowly adding to it. Then, suddenly when you're applying to university or applying to wherever you're applying, suddenly it all comes together. So I hope that wasn't too long of an answer. And
no, that was very valuable, Dennis, and you said it so well. It is not going to start in grade 11 or 12. You have to plan that way ahead of the game, maybe grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, because building your resume takes something. You need to have that kind of experience. You need to have spent that kind of time into the marketplace, or that kind of education or extra activity to give you some sort of confidence. Okay, that, right? So no, that's perfect. And also, Dennis, since you're talking about the resume or essay, do you think kids can go and find out some resources where they can get some coaching how to write it professionally? Are there any resources available?
This is a really good question. Sometimes you can ask a teacher at your school. This is I'm really trying to think back to when I started doing resumes. There's tons of online resources. I'm sure I could dig up a few that make sense. Ask your teachers for advice. Sometimes an English teacher can give advice on organizing resume, or if you're writing an essay. You'd hope that most English teachers are fairly qualified. But yeah, try online resources. And yeah, I think maybe the big thing, more so than how you've organized it, is that your application, your resume, your essay is aligned with the requirements of whatever you're applying for. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you a work example because that's just what I know best. Every single job I've applied for, I make a new resume and I write a new essay for it. So I know a lot of people, and to be honest, I'm guilty of this, of just cut and paste. Let me send this off. But if you really care about where you're applying, you write something specifically for the institution that you're applying to.
Yeah, so Dennis, I totally agree with you. Even I recall the memories when I came to this country in 2010 as a new immigrant. And I was having versatile experience, back home, and even here also. In last 12 years, I worked in 5, 6 different places, and all those experiences which I collected or gathered due to my, different jobs, they trained me in different kind of skill set. And when we say we have to build different resume, it does not mean we have to manipulate that. Basically, we need to highlight that particular skill in details, whatever that job or employer is looking for. Similarly, in universities, if universities are looking forward this kind of skill for this kind of course, and student has already gathered some experience by volunteering or attending those classes, then he need to reiterate or put more focus or highlight in detail about that particular skill, so that his essay can stand out and he can definitely get his position secured. No, definitely very, very valuable information. All right, so I am heading to my last question, which is very, very important question. Many parents ask me about this, and this is really very interesting thing. If there is an opportunity for scholarship, why not? Right? So everybody have rights to know how their kids can qualify for scholarship, and more precisely, what is the criteria for getting scholarship, and what are the resources available out there? Can one get maybe 2 or 3 different kind of scholarships, or they need to plan for that also ahead of time? Is kids in grade 11 or 12 can start now for the process, or that also has to start early? So Rahul, I will leave that question for you to answer, and Dennis and Tanvir can definitely add on into it once you're done. So please go ahead, Rahul.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. This is definitely a big question. It's very popular, and there's a lot to unpack. The good news is that we've pretty much been talking about this throughout our entire call. So let me explain. First, what do scholarships look for? Or maybe I should back up. What is a scholarship? Because I'm sure lots of people have heard the word, but some people might not fully understand it. So a scholarship is essentially maybe a company, a government, a person maybe who's just trying to support the next generation of youth into university. Right now, obviously, everyone knows universities aren't the cheapest things in the world. We're lucky we're in Canada. We have, fairly cheap post-secondary education as compared to our neighbors in the South, the States. But still, dishing out $8,000, $10,000 a year is not always easy. So scholarships is a great way to support students who are seeming like aspiring, brilliant young men, women, essentially the future, and just kind of supporting them into their future endeavors. So now scholarships, the beautiful thing about them is that they look at so many different things. You can get some scholarships that are just academically based. So academically based scholarships are literally just going to look at your grades. Maybe they'll ask you for a little essay on the side. But I was lucky enough that I got a few scholarships that were literally just off of my grades. So they saw that I was a pretty good student, and they gave me some money for that. Now, obviously, the money has to go towards your tuition. So it's not money for you to go buy a new Xbox or something. Other scholarships can also be based off of your extracurriculars. Maybe if you're a great leader in the community, you might want to look for leadership scholarships. If you play sports, there are sports scholarships. A lot of schools, they will take a fantastic young athlete and they will pay for their entire education to come play whatever sport for that school. So yeah, there's a wide variety of scholarships out there. As far as how many you can get, really the sky's the limit. I know quite a few people who have gotten more money than even their university, and I'm lucky enough that I was one of those students. So my entire university education was paid for me, which is a huge thing for me, as well as it was a huge weight off of my parents' shoulders as well. So yeah, I think the biggest thing when it comes to scholarships is make sure you apply. Even if you feel like, you might not quite get it, there's no harm in applying. In fact, as Wayne Gretzky once said, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. right? So definitely apply for every single scholarship that comes across your path, because every year there's tons of scholarship money that companies have put aside, or individuals or governments have put aside to support youth that go unclaimed, right? So this money essentially is just sitting there, and if the person who was maybe looking like a little bit of a weaker applicant had just applied for it, they probably would have gotten that money. And of course, free money is always good money. So now, as far as another aspect as to what scholarship committees are usually looking for. So not only are they looking for marks or extracurriculars or whatever, like we mentioned, but they're also looking for references, as Dennis earlier mentioned earlier as well. Right. So references are really important. One of the biggest things that I can say is no matter what you're involved in, whether it's school, extracurriculars, volunteering, anything, make sure you keep really good relationships with everyone in your life. You can get references from anyone and anywhere. If you have a teacher who will speak very highly of you, that's awesome. If you have someone who's a community leader who can also speak very highly of you, that also helps. There's quite a few scholarships that I applied to where they wanted one reference from a teacher, one reference from a community leader, one reference from maybe a work supervisor or a volunteering supervisor, right? So all of these relationships are really important to make sure that you're maintaining them well in your life. And at the end of the day, you just want to show the scholarship committee that you are an outstanding citizen of the community. And hopefully they'll give you the money to help support your education.
Absolutely. Yes, Rahul, that is so, imperative and helpful for all those, parents who are working hard and their kids also very brilliant. Sometimes money is a constraint, to get through that kind of qualification. And if there are resources available, like scholarship, as you mentioned, there are so many resources. So definitely everyone should look around it and, plan for it and just go for it. So Rahul, maybe if you can make a PDF where you can put some sort of links, like these are the most demandable, or these are the most important resources, or those are the associations who offer scholarships. If you can put something together and send it to us, what I can do, people definitely email us and call us even once we publish this session on our YouTube channel. They send us their questions and everything. So everyone out there who's looking out, who's watching this video, please send all your questions to info@deepakchopra.ca. If you still have any questions which are not answered in the session, and also if you're looking forward for that PDF where we have all the links jotted down for the scholarship, so we can always share that to you, please email it to us at info@deepakchopra.ca. So Dennis and Tanvir, anything else around scholarship?
Yeah, maybe I'll just add something super quickly. Something that I was actually surprised, and I'm more surprised about, in recent years. So obviously, I'm, still in school, so I still see the, scholarships and whatnot. There seems to be more that are not related to grades, which is very interesting. Maybe every year there's only one or two that, are solely your marks. I haven't tracked all of the scholarships out there, but in recent years, it seems that leadership, volunteering, community involvement is more important. I wouldn't say more important, but is kind of required for a lot of scholarships. So just to put that out there, that don't lose track of the extracurriculars.
Yeah. No, perfect. Thank you so much, Dennis, for sharing that. So, all right, I think these are the questions which I was having so far, and I'm sure once this session will be published, there will be a lot more other questions, and I would again request all three of you to answer those questions, and we can reach out to all those people via email. So, anything else you think Rahul, Dennis, or Tanvir is left over, or any last minute information is popping up in your mind and you want to share with the audience? looks like from your nodding, we covered pretty much everything, right? And moreover, these are the questions which people sent it to us, and thank you so much for putting it together so nicely and answering every single thing in details. I have seen you and Tanveer for sure going through such a great scholarship programs and working hard in universities, and I came to know about Dennis from Rahul because you, I think, studied together. So Dennis, you have achieved tremendous success in your life, and you're studying 2 degrees also. Rahul is totally on track as a commercial banker and working on family business. Tanveer is soon to be MD. So gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. And I would like to request each one of you to share maybe just in 30 seconds to 1 minute for any last minute or closing remarks. So Rahul, why don't you go first?
Sure. Yeah. Once again, thank you so much for having me on this call. It's always a fantastic opportunity to have a chat with you and share my life experiences. One last bit of advice that I might have for our audience of young students here is make sure you guys are working hard. I know it's very easy to get off track and want to maybe skip school one day to go have a little bit of fun, right? But at the end of the day, if your academic career is important to you, stay true to that. And also, even though we've shared a lot of information today, always make sure to do your own research. It's always really, really important as you go from province to province or country to country, even school to school within the same province. A lot of information can change, and every year universities are updating their admission requirements and everything that they look at. So it's always important to open up a computer, go flip through some websites, and take a look at what you can find. Maybe you'll find some information that even we don't know. So yeah, good luck. And of course, I'm sure if you guys are all working hard, you're watching this video, so you're taking the first right step. But yeah, wish you guys all the best. And thank you so much again for inviting me.
Thank you, Rahul. Dennis?
Yeah, no, not much to add. Ruhu, I think wrapped it up very well there. Yeah, thanks for having me on a call, Deepak. This is a lot of fun. Hopefully a lot of value for our viewers online. Of course, if there's questions, anything like that, after this is published, I'm happy to answer some of those.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dennis. Tanveer?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having us on here. It is like a really nice platform, and I hope that the viewers do appreciate and gain, at least some knowledge from what we did here today. And another thing that I wanted to add is, all these things sometimes seem very overwhelming. Like it seems like there's a lot of steps, but like we mentioned today, the earlier you start, the better. Like you have more time to get everything done. And it may seem like, for us, all of us in our academic careers, like we've, just only been doing these things, like all we do is volunteer, study, and all that stuff. There still is a lot of time to go out and live your life and have fun. And if you are volunteering in the right places and getting your work experience from the right places, those things should be fun as well. So don't always, look to others or to even like look at what we did. You don't always have to follow the same path. Your path is different. You don't always have to volunteer at the most generic places or be a part of the most basic clubs. There's a lot to do out there, and trust me, it may not seem like all of it correlates to what you want to do in life, but at some point, I'm sure it will. And I think all experience is good experience. So yeah, try to kind of have fun with it. Don't just do what you think the university or your employer will want to see. Do some things that you enjoy as well, and it might still work out for you.
Thank you so much for creating that. Then we definitely, kids does not, need to take it, the pressure on them. Just, work with the planning. I think putting plan in place is the way to be, and starting early in the game is very important and crucial. So, and I am also encouraging all those people who are watching this video once we're going to publish on YouTube and Facebook. If you still have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can send DM to me or you can email it to me, info@deepakchopra.ca. My phone number is 780-710-6435. As I mentioned at the beginning of this session, the intention of this channel is only to provide awareness. We are here bringing resources like these wonderful, amazing, successful young students and now professionals who shared such a valuable information for upcoming generations. So we are committed to bring those resources and try to answer all those most important questions and concerns you have in the important area of your life. So we will keep continuing to do that. So a humble request to all of you to please like and this channel so that we can reach out to more and more people. And feel free to share your ideas with us. What are the other important topics you are dealing in your life? Where we can bring more guest speakers like them who are very successful and who are experienced in their own field. There is a lot of information out there. There are tons of people who are willing to contribute with their sharing what you can create in your life. So always reach out to us. Thank you, Rahul, Dennis, and Tanvir, one more time. I really, really humbly acknowledge all three of you on behalf of the Dot Connector channel and all my staff. And you have a wonderful career ahead. I will be very happy to see you on the top. Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.